Rational numbers are decimals and fractions. We're going to start by just reminding ourselves how to add and subtract decimals. But now we're going to have some negatives and positives in there. So when we add and subtract decimals, we want to line up the decimals. That keeps our place value in the right spots. Okay, I'm going to give you a chance to... So we're talking about rational numbers, decimals, and fractions. We're going to add and subtract by lining up our decimal places. So if I have negative 1.3 plus 5.6, well, it's important when we look at rational numbers, anything integers, positive and negative, we go back to our integer rules. We see a negative and a positive, that means opposite sign, right? So we're going to subtract. And remember that you always have to put the bigger number on top. I still see students in Algebra 2 subtracting with the smaller number on top because it's first. And that's not correct. So I'm going to subtract. 5.6 is the bigger number. I'm going to put the 1.3 on the bottom. And then remember that our final answer has the sign of the bigger number. So 1.3 is negative. 5.6 is positive, which is bigger. So my final answer will be positive. Okay. So now I subtract. 6 minus 3 is 3. I bring my decimal point down. 5 minus 1 is 4. The final answer we said needs to be positive. So 4.3 is my answer. So here is negative 3.4 minus 5.5. Well, with subtraction, we like to change it to plus the negative, and then we can follow the addition rules. Okay, so keep, change, change, remember? And so now we have the same sign, which means we're going to add, and the common sign is negative, so my final answer will be negative. So we're going to stack it, 5.5 plus 3.4. Again, line up your decimal place. And then because they're same sign, we're going to add 9 and 8. 8.9, and then the final answer is negative because my common sign was negative and they had the same sign. How about 1.9 minus 8.2? Again, subtraction, so we're going to keep, change, change. And now we're going to ask ourselves if they have the same sign or different sign. And so then they're opposite signs or different sign. So I need to subtract. These are all these things you have to ask yourself as you're going through these problems. And it's super important with subtraction. You put the smaller number on top. And the smaller number not accounting for the negative. So really the number that's furthest from 0 goes on the top. And then I'm going to subtract. And now this is where subtraction becomes a pain in the butt because I can't do 2 minus 9. And I can't subtract this one up this way and subtract that one that way. I see that too. So we're going to subtract 2 minus 9. I need to borrow from the 8 and make it a 7, and then this becomes a 12 instead of the 2. I'm going to add 10 more to that. And so 12 minus 9 now is 3. Bring down the decimal point. 7 minus 1 is 6. Opposite signs, that means the sign of the bigger number which is negative, because the bigger number is the 8.2. So you have more negatives, so your final answer is negative 6.3. Does that all look familiar? Just without maybe the negative signs? Okay, so you're probably going to need a little bit of scratch paper to do tonight's homework, even though it's on the quiz tool. Okay. Are there any questions you want to put in the chat or unmute and ask me? All right. And let's look at multiplying and dividing decimals. So when we're multiplying and dividing decimals, we just line them up as if there were no decimals. We don't need to line up the decimal points. And what we do is we count how many digits are behind the decimal point, and that's how many digits will be behind the decimal point in our answer. So there's 2 numbers behind the decimal. So there'll be 2 numbers behind the decimal point in my answer. And basically, I'm just going to multiply 2.3 and 1.1. 1 times 3 is 3. 1 times 3 and 1 times 2 is 2. And then 1 times 3, remember I leave a 0, placeholder, and then 1 times the 2. And then we're going to add. We get 3, 5, 2, and 2 numbers behind the decimal point. So my answer is 2.53. Now let's talk about whether it's positive or negative. Different signs. Answer is negative. So my final answer is negative 2.53. So don't forget in the end that we're also dealing with negative and positive numbers. So we should check to make sure our sign on the answer is correct. Let's do another one. We'll use the multiplication dot instead. Negative 7.3 times 3.6. And how many numbers behind the decimal place? There's 2, right? And we have different signs. So the answer will be negative. And now we're going to multiply 7.3 times 3.6. And we shouldn't be using a calculator on these. We need to get our brain thinking about our multiplication facts. We need to be quick at doing these. And we get quick at doing them by doing them in our heads, not reverting to a calculator. So 3 times 6, 18. And then 6 times 7 is 42 plus the 1 that we carried or regrouped, whatever your vocabulary is from when you were in school, is 43. And then I leave a space or a 0 for my placeholder, and 3 times 3 is 9, and 3 times 7 is 21. And then we can add. 8 plus 0 is 8, 3 plus 9 is 12, 1 plus 4 is 5, plus 1 is 6, and 2. And we said 2 numbers behind the decimal point, so my decimal, 1, 2. And then I believe we said the final answer is negative, so negative 26.28 is our final answer. Now, I don't remember if I saw division on tonight's homework or not, but we're going to talk about it as well. Let's look at dividing decimals. How about 4.2 divided by negative 0.6? My goodness. So remember, the number in first, when it's written this way, goes inside 4.2. And again, we're dividing, so it's different signs. In the end, the answer will be negative. Okay. 0.6. So what we do with division is we take the number that's in front that we're dividing by, and we move the decimal until there are no numbers behind the decimal point. So we're going to move our decimal 1 place this way, and then we do the same in the number underneath. Move it 1. So now my problem is 6 goes into 42. And that's 7. Final answer should be negative. I'm going to give you one to try. Negative 3.5 divided by 0.7. Can you do that one? All right. Can we put some answers? I see so far you guys have the answer, those of you who gave me an answer. So this 0.7 goes in front and the 3.5 goes underneath, and we move our decimal 1 place each. So the new problem becomes 7 divided by 35, and we know that's 5. And different signs, so my answer is negative. So negative 5. For those of you who got that, good job. So we're going to start with fractions with common denominators first. So adding and subtracting. Fractions with the common denominator, so negative 5/3 plus 7/3. Do we add the denominators together when we're adding fractions? Anybody? Do we add the bottoms together? Or do we just combine the top? All right. I couldn't really hear your whole answer. All I heard was, yeah, we.
I think we combine the top.
Yes, we combine the top and we leave the denominator the same because it's like adding up how many thirds there are, right? The denominator of 3 is thirds. So how many thirds do we have? Well, we start with negative 5/3 and we're adding 7/3. So here we're adding, the signs are opposite. So we're actually going to subtract 7 minus 5 and get 2. And then the bigger number is positive, so my final answer is positive. So how about 12/19 minus 5/19? Subtract the top. Okay, I only have one. They're both positive and I'm subtracting, so just do subtraction like normal. 12 minus 5 is 7. The denominator is 19. How about negative 7/8 minus 1/8? Same sign now. So we're going to add 7 plus 1 to get 8. The common sign is negative. And can we leave the fraction as 8/8? Or do we need to reduce it to -1? Reduce. Thank you, Devin. Yes, we reduce to -1. So on tonight's homework, all of your fractions will have common denominators. And what about multiplying and dividing? Well, let's just first talk about multiplying fractions because dividing is different. Multiplying fractions. So what I like to do is I like to see if there's anything I can reduce first. It's called cross-canceling, and I know that some elementary teachers don't teach it. So I really want to make sure we talk about this way of reducing the fraction before we do the multiplication. In the end, we're going to multiply straight across because when I look at it diagonally, I don't have any common factors I can divide out. Okay, up and down diagonally is division. So here I have nothing I can divide out, so I'm just going to multiply 1 times 3, and 2 times 4 is 8. Can I reduce 3/8? No. So my final answer is 3/8. I didn't put any negative signs on this one. I'll put some on the next. So here's an example where we're going to be able to do some reducing. Diagonally, 10 and 5 can both be divided by 5. And 4 and 12 can both be divided by 4. What this does is it keeps our final answer not as large, so when we're reducing, it's not as hard to figure out how to reduce it. So I'm going to look at these two. I'm going to divide 10 by 5, I get 2. And I'm going to divide 5 by 5 and I get 1. I can reduce that. And I can reduce this way by dividing them by 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1, and 12 divided by 4 is 3. Now when I multiply straight across, -1 times 2 is -2, and 1 times 3 is 3. And my reducing is done because I looked at the smaller numbers and reduced them first. And my students in Algebra 2 sometimes have a hard time with this. But it's an important skill because it keeps our numbers from being huge, because we can't always control how large the numbers get when we're working on problems. So let me move this up and we'll do a few more. 12 over 11 times 4/6. Now when you look at this diagonally, do 4 and 11 have any common factors? And then, or does 12 and 6 have common factors? Well, 12 and 6 have a common factor. If I divide 12 by 6, I get 2. And if I divide 6 by 6, I get 1. Now I have a smaller problem. 2 times 4 is 8, and 11 times 1 is 11, 11/8. And then dividing. To divide fractions, we multiply by the reciprocal. So we keep the first one the same. We change it to multiply, and then we flip the second fraction. Okay. And now we can multiply. Here, 2 goes into 2 one time, and 2 goes into 4 one time. And that leaves me with 3 times 1 is 3, and 1 times 1 is 1. So my final answer is 3. Oh, wait, no. That's wrong. This is a 2. This is a 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. Let's do one more. Negative 2/3 divided by negative 4/5. I keep forgetting we're really dealing with negatives here, but so our same sign, our answer is going to be positive with multiplication and division. I'm going to keep the first one, change it to multiplication, and flip the second fraction, negative 5/4. Now I will look for any common factors in the diagonals. So I see 2 and 4 again. So 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. I'll do that right this time. And then I'm doing negative 1 times negative 5, which is positive 5, and 3 times 2, which is 6. Okay, I'm going to give you one to try. Okay, you can type your answer in the chat when you have it. And the division sign for fraction is next to the shift button with the question mark. Give this one a try. All right, so I'm seeing some good answers in here. That's 5/6 times negative 3/1. And then we can see that we have common factors here. So 6 divided by 3 is 2, and 3 divided by 3 is 1. So we get negative 5, and 2 times 1 on the bottom, halves. So good job, guys.